committee meeting Tuesday, the 23rd of May. And the first item on the agenda is the election of the chair and the deputy chair. So, councillors, have we a nomination for the chair of this committee? Councillor Jones. I keep
Well, I'll throw something at you.
what's his name? Troublemaker.
To nominate Councillor David Hawley, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are we seconded for that nomination? Right. Proposed by John, seconded by, yeah?
Any additional
Hang
nominations?
on, no, I'm coming to that, dear. Oh, no, then. Any other nominations for chair? In that case, can I have a show of hands that we accept Councillor Dave Hawley? That is absolutely unanimous. It must be a first. Dave, would you like to? Would you like to take the chair, please? Come over here. Oh, well, I like sitting next to Seth.
The chalice.
No. I know. Parting is such a
So it's only because you remember your name, that's the reason.
Is there anything on there that isn't on here?
One of these.
Me to nominate him. Want me to nominate him?
That's fine. The best council number of chairman. Hard to sit like Jones.
You don't have to.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for the nomination. I'll get another year. I don't know how much longer I'm going to carry on doing it. It's going to come to an end soon.
Right.
Right. Next item then is election of deputy chair. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on your appointment as Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Jim Garvey as Vice Chair of this committee. Thank you.
Seconder.
I'd like to second that, Chair.
Got any more nominations? Vote now. Councillor Jim Garvey, Vice Chair. Chair.
Just say I'm not on this committee at this season, so I abstain on both of them. I'm not on the committee anymore at the moment. It was full.
Okay, now, have you got any apologies, sir?
Yes, Councillor Salt, I'm assuming Councillor Proudlove is still on his way.
He's still on his way.
Fine.
I don't think he's going to arrive, to be honest.
Yeah, Councillor Garvey is of course on holidays.
Okay. So 3 declarations of interest. A, disclosable pecuniary interests and dispensations. Any other interests?
I'd like to say that I live opposite house.
Thank you. If as we're going through, we're going to come on any of these applications, you find that you've got an interest, then just shout up and we'll record it. Okay. Right, item 4. Minutes to approve the minutes of the planning committee meeting held on the 18th of April. These have been to council. So if everyone's happy, then the appropriate time will sign them, or I've got them so I can sign now.
Ooh. The flies on earth.
Back to the old days, this sign on the day.
While we're doing that tonight, up in a light.
Doesn't matter.
Each.
Put them on above you, sir, don't you?
Yeah, I don't mind. I just seem to have lost light.
The screen,
It picks out your hair.
Oh, yeah.
Generally all the same colour, but
It's up Nigel's hair as well. The lights pick up your hair.
I'm glad something's picked up my hair. I haven't got much.
The next item then, item 5.
By surprise, I like comment.
Is a standing agenda item to consider any proposed sites for local listing.
Shall I give an update on this for those?
You can do, yes.
Yeah, so for those who weren't members of this committee previously, Town Council submitted a number of sites within the town to be included within the District Council's list of locally listed sites. There's lots of lists in that sentence, I'm sorry about that. And that's things that haven't been given sort of listed building status in terms of the kind of planning policy, but that we feel locally have some importance and some merit. So it's things like the Conservative Club, the buildings in this area of the town. Particularly the gym next to it, which has always been used with its the entirety of its existence, as far as we can tell, as some sort of sports and leisure facility. So we'd submitted those to the district council. It had gone quite quiet from them, but I think there'd been a change of officer, and that officer and I are hoping to have a conversation about them next week. But we decided previously that the committee would keep this as an agenda item so that we could have regular update on our progress with those areas within the town, and also to add any others to it as and when the time came. So when I've spoken to the officer, the new officer at the district, I'll perhaps forward out paperwork again for consideration, then you can see what we've done already, and then perhaps think whether there's anything in your ward you would like to give that status to. Is that all right?
Yeah, fine. Anybody, any questions?
We have a defined list, which means that criteria as of now, which we can circulate, so that can be a starting point, potential looking and adding to.
Yeah.
That might be something which is worth distributing to the planning committee.
That's it then. Right, move on to the next one. Item 6, to receive a verbal update on the progress for the neighbourhood plan and neighbourhood development order. Some updates on this side, if you want to.
Yes, so the consultants that we've been working with, who are Urban Vision, so they've actually been employed to do a mediation role by locality. They have redrafted a number of the policies that were in the neighbourhood plan, not with significant amendments, but with slight wording tweaks, which is in line with the examiner's recommendations and the requirements of the district council. We haven't really got any major concerns about that, but obviously the district council a preferred way of writing.
Wasn't me.
Right.
Jeez. Woo.
Yes, a preferred way of writing their planning policies. So we've received that. We're also in the process of proposing amendments to the rest of the document as well. So there's a lot of background information within the neighbourhood plan, not just the policies, to make some amendments regards, small typos, changes of dates, changes of tense, that kind of thing. So I've been working on that, which is quite a big piece of work. So those two documents will then send to the district council and send to those members of the neighbourhood working group. As far as I know, that will then feed into a report that the officers are writing for the district council cabinet. So then that will be considered by them. The hope is that then we'll be given permission to make those amendments. We'll do that, and then hopefully direction of travel is referendum. So we're moving in the right direction.
Bit slow, but we're getting there. So the action.
See roadmaps with sort of milestone. Now, I know this roadmap has got longer and longer and longer, and I think sometimes it's what's it worth doing? There's a hell of a lot of work involved with it, and national government can pass a law that kicks the whole lot into the river, which it can, and it may well do. So, I mean, the referendum is going to be really the next big milestone.
Yeah.
Is it likely to be this year? That's a pretty wide open goal. Is it likely to be?
Planning, well, my sort of idea is probably autumn.
Yeah.
Which year?
Hope for September, October this year.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's dragged on potentially. I think COVID sort of kicked it into touch for 18 months or so. Nothing really happened.
Just glad you haven't said Ukraine wars had an effect, but that's usually the line.
And then obviously we had the stumbling block where we ended up in somewhat animated discussion with the Staffordshire Moorlands planners, which is where the mediation came in. That has been resolved. It did help that the planner who was causing most of the problems left And another one came in who'd worked on neighbourhood plans before, who's a lot more amenable. And so we've managed to move things forward. So the hope is that sort of autumn, September, October, to get it through. And I'm
Councillor Jones, you know, he's Jones, he doesn't get an answer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just guessing here now. And I've no doubt that Sarah, you'll expedite what you've got to do in a timely fashion. So I think the driver is probably going to be the new administration at week now. Hopefully, we might get a little bit more of an enthusiastic engagement now than we've had for the last few years. So hopefully, and I presume that's your estimates based on that happening in a timely fashion. But I'm quite optimistic now. I really am. So over to you guys.
Councillor Holdsworth and Councillor Fletcher.
New to all of this, obviously. Is this a full town referendum?
Yes.
How much would it cost?
Didn't cost us anything, the district council paid for it.
Okay.
That's why ideally we would have preferred to have had it on May the 4th, and effectively it wouldn't have cost that because obviously there was an election going on.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that they held it all up, it's the fact that they're going to have to sort of fund it.
Is there a minimum of win on this? I mean, is it a 60-40 or a,
If there are
or a 59?
votes in favour,
Yeah.
then that'll do.
All right, okay.
That's Fletcher.
Yeah, can you just remind me, what is the end period that this covers? Yeah, what's yeah, when does it end?
That's one of the things we were arguing about. The examiner wanted to change the date so that it was in line with the local plan. And we said, and Urban Vision said, there is no reason for you to do that.
Right.
So we stuck with 2035, which was our original date, which means that the local plan period finishes before that.
Right.
So we'll, I suppose the best way to describe it is we'll have coverage as a town.
Yeah.
I think it's quite good to have overlap like that.
Yes.
Yeah, we could amend, if the local plan overrides what we said, then we can amend it.
Yeah.
But yes, but that was one of the stumbling blocks that their planner was quite insistent that it had got to tie in with the local plan. The new one that's come along says, no, it doesn't. Plus our consultant said, no, it doesn't. So we've won on that one. Okay, any more questions on that?
Just a comment really, I mean, it does cost obviously the taxpayer, whether it's this council or not. I mean, it would be good if it could have coincided with an election, and whether there's a scope for sort of having this election ready and fixed and then have a sort of dwell period, just wait to see if anything else crops up, because there's always potential for by-elections. With the current government, there's always potential for a general election, but to me, it's getting it on the shelf and ready to go as quickly as possible so that we don't miss an opportunity if something arises.
I see where you're coming from, but to be quite honest, from my point of view, and I think from everybody who's worked on it, the sooner that it's ready, effectively, the sooner we can go from the election, or say for a referendum, we go for it. I don't want to have it sitting there on the shelf.
No, not.
Don't just waiting. I mean,
I
I can see where you're coming from.
Ready, is there anything, so to speak?
Yeah, but my sort of view is that essentially it's gone on long enough, and the sooner we can get it to a referendum, the better.
Yeah.
If there is one imminent in election, then fine, but if there isn't, then effectively we just have to go. So the way we're going to have to take it. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with what you said, Chair. I think, as soon as it's ready, Nigel, I think we should go. Not hang about at all. But don't give them any excuse to pull the plug on it. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Yes, as a town, I know as a community, I'm going to pay for it, whether it's town or SMDC, but I think we should just go for it. Once it's ready, let's get it out there.
Okay.
Can I just add, Chair? If anybody hasn't had the opportunity to read the neighbourhood plan, it is still on our website. So it's the Regulation 16 version. So it's quite a number of pages. I'm happy to print that, or I'm happy to send you a link to where it is if you want to just have a read and see what it looks like in its current form. There will be some amendments to that, obviously, with the changes to policies and some slight wording tweaks. But if you want to have a bit of bedtime reading, yeah.
It's a link.
Yeah. I'll do that to you. I'll just resend the link and then you know where it is and you can see what we've done on that web page is to track the different interventions and the, the district council report, the examiner's report that comes in as well. I'll send that on again.
Okay. Right, move on then to item 7. To receive an update on town council planning applications. Well, we've got 2 of them actually on tonight. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Sarah.
No, all I will just say is we've had some involvement with the planning officer with regards to the town hall application, and that's going to the planning committee. It is. We think that's probably because it's us and it's district council. So it's going to the planning committee, and we've been asked to have paperwork into them, I think by the 7th of June. They wanted a supporting statement for that. So Beverly's written something on that. I've been asked to kind of add anything else to it as regards why we want to do the project and additional, bits of additional.
Is it just one thing in you raising the planning committee? The one thing that does concern me slightly for those members of the district council, there is not one member in Biddle actually on that planning committee. And I think it basically leaves us in a very vulnerable position. I think between you need to get somebody, no matter what party it's from, but somebody from Biddle needs to be on that planning committee, and the sooner the better. And yet it leaves us wide open as far as I can see. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you said. Is it gone on? I think it's the 8th of June, isn't it? The planning committee. So it's going to be heard at that meeting, the 8th of June.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
I
you.
think it's the 7th. We have to have had our statements in the papers can be printed, something like that.
Yeah. Right, the next one is. Oh, sorry.
Just for the newbies, can you just give us a very quick update on what the planning process is, so that we all understand?
In terms of the
Very
plan,
abbreviated.
pardon?
We sit here and review it, and it goes,
What we do, you mean?
what happens to a planning?
Well, obviously, people are putting their plans in, which go into the district council. They vet them, and they are then sent out to us in terms of what we do, so we can actually make our recommendations. We can't make a decision on them. We make a recommendation. They don't have to listen to that recommendation. Those plans then will be actioned in most cases by a planning officer, and when a designated decision will be taken by the planning office, which is then okayed by the planning committee, just nodded through. It can actually be called in by district councillors, and then they are discussed at the planning committee, and a decision is made by the planning committee. So in terms of what we do, all we are doing is making a recommendation. One of the things in terms of what I put on the list that I send out, the neighbourhood plan policies, is normally if the plan that says submitted meets one of these policies, then we tick it as yes. If it doesn't, or it goes against it in some way, it'll be a no with the reason, and we can use that evidence to actually say to Leek or the district council, you've got to take this into consideration when you make a decision, because basically the neighbourhood plan is a legal document, and it has got some weight now. It has actually gone past the examiner.
I'm not the best person on planning policy and techniques and things, but it's classed as a non-political committee, because what they do, they judge the application against national planning guidelines, statutory requirements, and in some cases, the necessity to meet the local plan and neighbourhood plan documents. So it is very much a merit-based system to make sure that it meets the criteria. What it is designed to do is to try and avoid personal opinion or personal grievance, because you have to stick to statute, and that is, so you can't sort of just dismiss things and reject things on opinion, because what happens there is that if the developer is convinced that they understand and have met those national guidelines, those neighbourhood plan requirements, those local plan requirements, etc., etc. Statutory planning documents are another one to do with design. They can go to an appeal. Now, the problem with the appeal is it's one person who is totally detached from our area in the Staffordshire Moorlands, and he makes a very black and white decision purely based upon planning rules and regulations. And if you lose too many appeals, then the planning decisions would be taken away from Staffordshire Moorlands, and you'd be put into what's considered the class of special measures, which means that all planning applications go to that government inspectorate. And that's what you try to guard against. So it is a very prescribed and well thought out procedure.
Yeah, I mean, the planning officer will make recommendations to the planning committee. But the planning committee can override those. They can override those.
They have to be very clear on the criteria for overriding.
As of today, the
Yeah.
planning committee are making that decision. As of today, at Staffordshire.
The majority of decisions are delegated.
Yeah.
It could be technical decisions.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to put a little bit more flesh on the bones for Neil, if you look at page 4, 5 and 6, you'll see item 10, agenda item 10. You'll see there on the 1, 2, 3, 4th column across is what we said. And on the 5th column across is what SMDC said. You'll see, I think most of the time they agree with us, but sometimes they do. Approval, there you go. The one at the top of the page 6, I think, SMD 2023-0056, we recommended approval and they refused it. They make the decision. We're just an advisory committee. There you go. That helps.
Yeah. Okay then, are we okay? We'll.
Just like to add, you can view the planning applications committee online. And it's a pretty, for me anyway, it's an onerous committee to be on because basically a full day. The members on that committee put in a lot of hours because they visit every planning application, and that's right across the moorland. So you can imagine how many miles that can cover. They visit every single site that they are going to discuss in the meeting following the site visits. So it's a really long day. I mean, it can be a 12-hour day for some of those people on that planning committee.
Right, can we move on then? Start looking at the applications. I'm sure the new ones will pick it up as we go along. Right, planning application number is SMD 2023-0186 and it's Esland Care, 18 Epworth House, Old Road, Bilf. It's a lawful development certificate for an existing use as a children's care home within use class C2. No pre-application advice. As I say, lawful development segment, so carry on using it as a care home, and it started more than 10 years ago. It's basically the first house past the Hall Road playing field. In the planning documents, there's a registration certificate for up to 3 children, and the various covering letters which confirm the use of the children's care home on the basis it began more than 10 years ago. And there's various documents that are attached to show this. So on that basis, I personally would recommend approval. Councillor Yates.
Yes, I think this, I'm just reading the report, which has been put through, the supporting letter, which has been put through from the managing director. It's effectively a normalisation of an existing status. They've obviously gone through the paperwork and realised they never applied for planning permission.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on that basis.
The fact that they've been doing it for more than 10 years, which basically is the.
Yeah, it was a similar thing, actually. Why are they pushing in front after 10 years? Because there's never been an issue there as such. Just seemed weird. It's 10 years later to get an application in.
I think once it's been going for 10 years, then effectively the lawful development certificate is automatically accepted.
I see that.
Because they've been going that long anyway.
Thinking of selling the business on and
Yeah.
about the paperwork.
Yeah.
Really changed.
So is everybody in favour of that? Then?
Yeah, I see, Chair.
Okay. Right, the next one is somebody 2023-0174, Mr. I. Garcher, a homestead, John Street. It's variations of conditions 3, 4, 8 and 12 of planning permission SMD 2019-0564. Condition 3 was that the development shall be carried out with details shown in planning. 4 specifies the external appearance. 8 is the ground and property finish floor levels, and 12 is the development not brought into use until roads provided and serviced. There are various documents explaining the changes. SCC Mineral and Waste had got no comment. Police had got no adverse comment. Environmental Health had got no objections subject to environmental health conditions still applying. Highways had no objections, and there's an email there from the planning officer raising concerns and they're either changing roof tiles. I personally suggest that we allow the planning officer to ensure that the changes requested are in line with the plans. Without getting into too much detail. Councillor Jackson.
Just seems to me those conditions seem to be coming from the planning department rather than the applicant.
Well, yeah,
You know,
the conditions are laid down by them, yeah.
yeah, it seems to me there's been a conversation that's happened between the two. And the applicant, planners have asked the applicant to add these things in and then pick up on the tiling one.
Yeah, they made an part of the application. I think it was with the external appearance. That went in the original plans, they were specified as one type and they wanted to change them to something else. And the planning officers suggested that those tiles wouldn't necessarily be in keeping with the rest of the buildings. That's why it's not happy. Councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, I went onto the system this afternoon and I couldn't actually find the email from the planning officer. It just didn't seem to be there.
No, it is actually, if you clicked on one of the things, it was actually an incorrect thing and it was actually an email from the planning officer. Last one. I think when you.
What it was titled as something else.
It was titled as something else and it was actually an email from the planning officer.
Right.
Anyway. But that was out. As I say, it's one of these that when you get variations and conditions such as this, I think it's really down to actually let the planning officer make his mind up.
I agree.
Something really drastic that they're doing then.
Move it, Chair.
Yeah, so are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Right, the next one is SMD 2023-0153. Sarah Hayden, Biddletown Council, Biddletown Hall. That's redevelopment of the Town Hall Square in front of the Biddletown Hall. I propose we don't comment on that.
Oh, can we?
So, given, yeah.
Moving on.
Is everybody happy that?
With that development for the new council, I think as soon as we can get something on paper and let the new councillors have a look at what the proposals are from the front.
I mean, if you go and have a look in the planning application, those proposals are there.
Yeah. It's not as clear as some of the drawings that we've had in the past.
I'll resend those round.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So is that active at that? Because I looked on that the other day and the site wasn't available. Is it back up and running?
District council one, yeah.
No, it wasn't running the other day when you said.
Down over the weekend, wasn't it? Yeah.
Was it over the weekend? Because it wasn't working
I
at the
tried it
weekend.
on Friday, I think it was at the shop. I was trying to show David Wade. It just wasn't available on Friday.
Yeah, I know I had some trouble, but I think it's.
It was up.
I think it was Thursday I did it and they were all there, so.
Right, yeah, must be back up and running. I haven't tried it since then.
Okay, then SMD 2023-0170, Mr. Martin Hill and Miss Sarah Hodge, Lower Overton Farm, Overton Road, Congleton. And it was a change in the rear window and the ground floor configuration, and it's from double glazed doors and window to a bifold window. No pre-application advice. The walls will match existing and the doors will be aluminium. And it's basically a larger bifold window door with some internal reorganisation. Highways has put thing in saying they got no issues. I got no issues either. Recommend approval on that.
I see, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think of that. Yeah. Right, and the next one is SMD 2023-0165 and SMD 2023-0166. And it's Biddletown Council again, drinking troughs on Overton Road, Biddulph. And it's a repair works, repointing, reinstatement and replacement of missing fanials and a proposed new drinking trough adjacent to the remaining trough and listed building consent. Again, seeing as it's us, I propose we don't comment.
Okay.
Okay,
No, we should say to new members that this never happens, does it?
No, no.
We have a point, planning applications, it's very rare that it's two in one meeting.
it is usual that if it's one of the councillors, that if they put a planning application and we don't usually comment, we won't comment on. We'll have to declare an interest and they done. Right, the next one then is 2023.
Just on that, does it come to the council and then we don't comment on it and it goes, or does it just not come to the documentation?
Well, it comes to us, and so we just don't comment on it, and then it basically goes back without any comment, just making no comment. Right. Next one is SMD 2023-0237 and SMD 2023-0238. It's Miss Kay Boolan of Elmhurst Farm, Barnhurst Road, Elmhurst Farm, Barnhurst Road, Biddulph. Its application for planning permission and listing building consent for the conversion and alteration of an agricultural building to form a dwelling house. They've had pre-application advice and discussion regarding policy H1 to confirm that nationally described space standards should be applied. Materials, they're going to reuse the reclaimed bricks and tiles. It's grade 2 listed. They want to replace the first floor as it's rotten, and with also new doors and windows. There'll be 3 parking spaces. It'll be a 3-bedroom dwelling. The ground floor will consist of a lounge, hall, WC, dining room, kitchen and a utility. And on the first floor, there'll be 3 bedrooms, one of which is en suite, and a bathroom. There's been a BAT survey which gives recommendations. There's a heritage statement, and that recommends that it's a sensible and acceptable scheme to reuse building. That's a heritage statement. It's not a heritage committee or anything. They've had somebody in to do that. And the structural survey, which said that it needs work, but overall it is suitable for conversion without extensive rebuilding. Basically, I've put down a recommend approval, subject to non-contravention of Greenbelt, and that the BAT survey recommendations were adhered to. It's on the existing footprint of the barn. And so to my mind, I can't see that there is any major problem. Councillor Yates.
Yes, I think the fact it's on the existing footprint actually, wins it over. I wouldn't want to see them extending, which is what happens in some cases. I have walked past this on a number of occasions, and the age is starting to get the better of it. So, and there's an awful lot of water ingress. So I think if it stands, if it doesn't go through and something doesn't happen in 10 years' time, it probably won't exist, certainly in the form which it is. So, yes, it does seem to be a sympathetic development. I think there is a move to this kind of thing, and I think it fits into the area.
So,
Great.
then, happy with my recommendation then?
Yep.
Okay. Right. The next one is actually a subsidiary, supplementary. SMD 2023-0241. It's Mrs. Olivia Renata of 126 Park Lane, Knipersley. It's proposed single-storey front and rear extension. No pre-application advice. Materials will match existing. It's a bungalow, and the extensions are going to provide additional bedrooms, and they're basically to the front and rear. And the existing bedrooms would have side windows installed. Other properties in the area appear to have front and rear extensions if you look at the sort of location maps. So I've put down recommend approval subject to no neighbours valid planning concerns. So that's basically if a neighbour has any sort of valid reasons why it shouldn't go through, then that would be accepted. That's just me. Yeah. Anybody got any comment? So,
Was a supplementary.
do you want it on the screen? No? Happy with that, what I've said?
Approve subject to neighbours.
Yeah. Recommend approval. All in favour of that then? Yeah. Right. Got through. Item 9, consider supplementaries, which we've. Item 10 is new decisions and notices received from the district council. This is effectively ones that have gone through, basically puts down what we stated, also what Staffordshire Moorlands have done. So, if anybody's got any comments on those, they come now. There's no appeals. No, that's it. Close the meeting.
Agree with this.
7:20.
Yeah, is it?